All right, here we go, Kathy, another adventure.
Here we go.
Any words of wisdom for us? Prayers?
I think just be here now and be open.
Well, hi there.
Hi there. Hi, Alan.
How are you?
See you.
Hi, Kathy.
Good morning. So good to see you both.
Absolutely great to see you guys.
Yeah, here we are. We're doing this.
Here we are. So we're so excited to be here today, Moshe and Kathy, to work on this, do this interview with Alan to support your article for Leader to Leader. We think this is going to be pretty exceptional that we have this opportunity to collaborate and interview with Alan, who's working together, leadership and management system, creates the connected culture of love by design. So just up the Amare Wave alley. So this partnership is pretty special. So we're really excited to be here. And we're so excited that this is going to be used to write your article for Leader to Leader.
Yeah, same. I can't think of a better example, Alan, than you, who has put these ideas into practice for years and the results you've generated. And I really appreciate your enthusiasm for my work and willingness and happiness and sharing the story. So onward and upward.
I just have to say one thing. I just reread your bio, Alan. I am just blown away again by everything you've accomplished and the accomplishments blended with the notion of love. I just think it's extraordinary. I just got moved again by who you've been being on the planet. So I just had to say that because it was right there. Like, wow. So
Kathy, I can't wait till you hear this interview, and I would welcome your feedback because I'm averaging 20 to 30 notes a week from my kids. I've counted up that I've had nearly about 2,200,000 employees over the years.
Wow.
And so every week I'm getting notes about how not only they loved the working together leadership and management system and what we accomplished for the greater good, but what it meant to them moving from I to we and me to service and having one life, which is their life's work, which happens to be their love made visible. So we are one, you guys.
Yes. Yeah. This is love in action right here. We're ready to roll. Okay, here we go. So welcome, everybody. I'm so glad we're all gathered here. I just want to share a little bit about how it is that we're coming together for this interview with you, Alan. Sarah, we met when you were working with Marshall many years ago and got to know each other some. That led to me doing an interview with Marshall a while back on this love powered leadership concept. And then you were instrumental when my book came out in spreading the word, promoting it, and so on. And I really appreciated that. And then you shared the book with Alan. Alan, that's how we connected. And I so appreciated your words about how you felt about my work and its application to what you've done through your whole career. So I'm delighted we can dive deeper in. And Kathy, who I first met as my coach and then became not just a mentor, but a partner in all kinds of coaching projects, asked her to join us to bring her wisdom to the table to be part of the conversation. So that's how we all got together. And I'll just introduce myself briefly first and then ask you each to say a few words about yourself, and then we'll dive into the questions. So my name's Moshe Engelberg, and I wrote this book that's on Alan's shelf.
There it is.
There it is. In good company, too. And I had been a consultant for 30 years, management marketing consulting, and had the epiphany business is missing love. That led to writing this book, shifting my career focus to executive coaching, leadership development. And here we are. Alan, I'll ask you to go last, so that'll be a segue into our questions. Sarah, can you say a few words about yourself?
Absolutely. Sarah MacArthur, so happy to be here. What a wonderful start to the morning and the afternoon. I am executive producer of a documentary called Defining Moments about the life and leadership of Frances Hesselbein. I am very fortunate working together partner with Alan Mulally and former COO of Marshall Goldsmith Inc. And then I'm also editor-in-chief of Leader to Leader journal, 16-time Apex Award-winning leadership journal founded by Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient Frances Hesselbein. Delighted to be here.
Wow. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Kathy.
It's such a pleasure to participate in this. I love working with Moshe, and he comes up with amazing opportunities that he says, come join me. And I feel honored to be able to bring any background that I have. I'm an executive coach and practice leadership development. And as a manager within AT&T years ago, I could always yearn for bringing more love, more compassion to the world of work. And it feels like a dream come true to get to be in this conversation today. So delighted to be here and happy to add anything that I see that might further the conversation and the awareness.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, Alan.
Well, I'm really pleased to be here with you. As you pointed out, I think the world of your service and the love of humanity and doing the right thing for the greater good. And over my career, I've been absolutely dedicated to that with leading with humility and service and love. And so that's been my life with Boeing, with Ford, with my family, with the communities in which I operate. And now it's an honor to be able to be sharing it with you guys and also all of your participants.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, here we go. So, Alan, you've served your family, Boeing, Ford, and our communities around the world in such a positive way over the years. Would you share more about your working together leadership, the formation, the development, and the service journey?
You bet. And Moshe, it's a very good question to start with, because as Frances Hesselbein has shared with all of us, who we are is going to have more to do with our effectiveness on how to be to serve the greater good. So next slide, please, Sarah. Okay, so Frances Hesselbein and Sarah and Marshall Goldsmith came to see me, Moshe and Kathy, and they said, okay, we're writing this book, and the title is Work is Love Made Visible. And I said, that's great. And they said, and we would like you to write the foreword to it. It's going to have 35 journalists, and they're going to be answering the fundamental question that I'm asking them is that if you're thinking about what's really important and you want to share that with everybody about their life's purpose and how to get there as a human being, we would love you to write that up. So I read the book, and I said to Frances, this is in person, and I said, you know, you got great authors there, Frances. You don't need me to write the foreword. And she said, well, Alan, in my opinion, you're one of the best examples of a leader with purpose that includes everybody then and loves them up than we know. And so we'd like you to write the foreword because it's an important part of the book because it sets the standard and the purpose of the entire book. So I said to Frances, what do you want me to write about? And they said, well, Alan, everybody knows who you are. They know what you've done, but they have no idea why you are who you are. Like, why do you smile all the time? And why do you love people? And why are you working together to create value for the greater good? And I said, well, Frances, I never talk about myself. And she said, she got real close to me. She said, exactly. That's why we want you to share your life's journey, especially your formation as a person, and then your development into being a leader that leads with humility and love to serve the greater good. So I said, where do you want me to start, Frances? And she gets close to me again and she says, when you were born. I'm going, oh, okay. I've never done that, Frances. And she said, okay, I want you to try. So I they left, and I sat down and I started writing, and it was really fun. And I hadn't really done this ever at one time, and this is not very complicated. It's like 3 pages long, and so I started writing this up, and you can see that we're including this in our conversation today, and these slides. Moshe can be made available for you too, so you can see it.
Sure.
So here's the first slide. You see the front of the book, and I'm writing it forward. And so I started out with Frances and what she stood for and what I learned from her. And next slide, please, Sarah. And then, as she asked me to do, I started with my story. And I started with, as I was growing up from the day I was born, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Then next slide, please. And I'm just hitting the highlights here because you're going to have this to look at yourself. And then what did that mean to me on the way I grew up, on what I did and how I served and how I loved working with other people that serve the greater good. And next slide, please. And then I kept developing my working together principles and practices. And you can see them here, and we're going to cover these in detail. And you can just see that it starts with people first. And you're going to see that in the way I've approached this is people first, love them up. They're human beings. They're worthy of love. And we are so happy to have you be working with you to create value for the greater good. Then next slide, please. And then the next thing we're going to cover is, so those are great principles and practices, but then we developed a working together leadership and management system. And this is the system that I used over the 47 years on leading Boeing, on all the airplane programs, and then also being the CEO of Boeing. And then also when Bill Ford asked me to serve as a CEO of Ford, to save Ford. And so those 5 elements of the management system we're going to cover also. So that's in that's one of the books, and all of this is going to be in your slides. Okay, next slide, please, Sarah. Okay, now a summary of that, Moshe, to your question.
Yes.
So on the left-hand side, it starts out when I was born. And so it was all about my parents. We had very little resources at the time, but we had a lot of love in our family. And between them, my mom and dad, and Reverend Turner, who was the minister of the Congregational Church that happened to be across the street from us, these are the things I learned from them on the left-hand side, and to share with you how I learned them. So every morning, my mom or my dad would say to me as I was leaving the house to go to school, my mom would say, "So Alan, remember what the purpose of life is?" And I'd say, "Oh yeah, Mom, I know. It's great what you taught me. The purpose of life is to love and be loved." And then my mom would get close to me and say, "Remember, in that order." Oh yeah, Mom, right. Okay, then my dad the next day would say, "Remember, honey, to serve is to live." And then seek to understand before seeking to be understood. Next day, by working together with others, you can make the most positive contribution to the greater good and the most people. And then expect the unexpected and expect to deal with it in a positive way. And then lifelong learning and continuous improvement. And then clearly respect everyone. We are all creatures of God and worthy to be loved. And then we'll talk about this a little bit more too. Develop one integrated life that is your life's work of service. And this one I'll never forget, Moshe. It's nice to be important, honey, but it's more important to be nice. Thanks, Mom. Okay, then look over on the right-hand side. So as I was growing up, without any resources, I started serving everywhere. My TV guide route, working at the Dillon's grocery store as a bagger, as a checker, and working in construction on the farm, on the ranch, all the way through high school and college. I served all the professors. And so what I learned from all of that was, boy, working together and including all of the stakeholders and loving them up and including them and being clear about your purpose and and the strategy for achieving it and the plan for assessing how we're doing. I learned from day one. And then I continued that at the University of Kansas, where I earned a aeronautical and astronautical engineering degree, and then at MIT with a master's in leadership and management. And then I met Nikki at the University of Kansas, and we've been married for 54 years now. We have 5 children and lots of fun grandchildren. And of course, all of these are continuing to work together and learning more and more about working together and loving them up. And then I joined Boeing, and Boeing, one of the finest working together companies in the world. And I had the honor to serve on the design team of every Boeing airplane, Moshe. The 707, the 727, the 737, the 747. I usually like to go really slowly because they're so neat. The 757, the 767. And then Boeing asked me to be the director of engineering for the 777, and then the general manager of the 777. And then I became the CEO of Boeing Commercial Airplanes. And also I helped with being the leader of Defense and Space when we bought McDonnell Douglas and Rockwell. And so, and then when we got to 777, and I'm going to share this with you, the commitments we made to take working together to another level to accomplish performance, safety, and efficiency, performance we'd never created in a commercial airplane. It was going to fly halfway around the world, 4 million parts, safely and efficiently, and it became the #1 airplane in the world. Then we took working together at Boeing to the highest level. And that's why you see it in quotes, because it includes all the operating process, but also the expected behaviors of how to create value, create a culture of connection and collaboration, of love by design that created value for all of stakeholders and the greater good worldwide. And I never thought I'd leave Boeing. I loved it. I had one more airplane that I wanted to help create. And then Bill Ford calls. I'm going, whoa, Bill Ford, great grandson of Henry Ford. And of course, if you're a designer and you're into safe and efficient transportation, I want to know all about his situation. And of course, the more he told me, then the worse it got, because they were in a really tough situation at the time. And I asked him how much, what was his forecast for profits for the year. This was in August of the year, and he said, we're going to lose $17 billion. Wow. And after I joined, 4 months later, we achieved it. So it wasn't a forecast accuracy issue. It was, right, we needed an updated vision, strategy, and plan. And then I get a chance today with you to share the working together leadership and management system with others. So that's my formation. And you can see at the bottom, and I learned this from Frances because she is an expert in this. And she said, Alan, you lead with service, with your humility and your love. And that makes you so, it's so important on what you want to do to create value for all the greater good. And all of the stakeholders that are supporting it. So that's my formation. What do you think?
Wow, what a powerful foundation! And I love that the core, the platform of the whole thing is to love and be loved in that order, and everything grows from that. And how you've so consistently stuck to that and built a system around that. I want to ask you more about this system, the working together principles and practices and the connected culture of love by design. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. And this is something that everybody can really appreciate about your leadership and mine, Moshe, because it's very interesting that when you read your book, you're going to see that you describe the Amare Way principles and practices. Yes. And they are exactly what we have implemented. So I'm so pleased to do this with you, because Sarah and I really feel that what we are doing is we are implementing the Amare Way with skill and aplomb. Okay, so let's talk about that. So next slide, please, Sarah. Okay, here are the principles and practices. And it's our working together of a connected culture and a collaborative culture of love by design. And you can see, just going down from the top to the bottom, this includes the operating processes we use, also the expected behaviors of all the participants, including all the stakeholders, to create a skilled, healthy, safe, and motivated teams. I'll be darned. The first principle in practice, people first, love them up. People have told me, Kathy, that I'm the first leader, CEO they've ever heard that used the word love in a sentence, let alone put a heart next to it. And so everyone's, and the reason is that when you're designing a commercial airplane like the 777, you have nearly 600,000 people that are working on the airplane all around the world. And so you just love them up because they're talented, they care, they want to make a difference, and they are ready to work together at the highest level of expertise. So everyone's included, all of the stakeholders. So the employees, the suppliers, the communities in which we operate, the investors, the bankers, everybody's included actually on the leadership team. And of course, it all starts with having a compelling vision, why we're here, what we're doing, our comprehensive strategy for achieving it, and our relentless positive implementation plan. Clear performance goals, one plan. Most companies have a lot of plans. Everybody's wondering what the plan is. Facts and data are really important. We care what you think, your opinions, but we also want to know what are the facts and data that you're looking at? Because when we do have an issue, then we want to be able to have the information you have so we can work together really effectively to turn the reds to yellows to greens. And that leads us to the expect the unexpected and expect to deal with it. Thank you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah,
Because
favorite moms on my slide.
because
Mom said.
this is a creative process. And so change is a wonderful thing because this is a design. We're going to learn things along the way. We welcome change. We welcome change in the environment around the world. And then we deal with that in a positive way. And so everyone needs to know the plan we're talking about, know the status, the areas that need special attention. And we actually, every leader when we have a business plan review, we actually color code their charts that they're presenting. With green, they're on plan. Yellow, they have an issue, but they have a solution. And red, they have a new issue, but they don't have a solution yet. And you can imagine now that the working together environment, that you're loving them up, then when they share a yellow or a red, you are so appreciative because now you're not managing a secret because they're sharing with you what the situation is, and you can work together to turn the reds to yellows to greens. And very complicated behaviors, propose a plan, positive, find a way attitude, respect each other, listen, help, appreciate each other. And then, of course, using emotional resilience, trust the process of working together. Go right back up to the top when you have an issue. Make sure you got everybody with you. You're loving them up. And then you work together to turn the reds to yellows to greens. Have fun. Enjoy the journey on each other. Every morning, Moshe, I say thank you. I'm so grateful to have a chance to have served on so many projects in creating such great contributions on safe and efficient transportation on automobiles and airplanes.
Yeah.
Now, one corollary to this is never a joke at anybody's expense, ever. And the reason is a joke at anybody's expense is not funny, and it's never funny. And if you want to have a psychologically safe environment where people will share what the situation is and you love them up, then anytime you would do that, then everybody's going to consider how they answer the questions and maybe not share with you exactly what's going on. So this whole love them up and this whole culture, of connected and collaboration and love by design on what we're doing and how we're doing it on all the participants, that results us into not having secrets. And now we can move decisively and quickly to turn the reds, yellows, and greens. And in the 777 case, that means in 5 years, we designed an airplane, brand new, 4 million parts, that was ready to go nonstop halfway around the world safely and efficiently, the first time in the history of aviation. So PGA down at the bottom does not stand for Professional Golf Association. It stands for Profitable Growth for All, because we always kept this really simple, because profitable growth means revenue times margins equal profit. So great companies are creating products and services that people want and they value, and simultaneously they're working on the efficiency of the process to continually improve the value creation for all the stakeholders. So creating value for all the stakeholders, they all benefit, and the greater good. And if you want to know more about my airplane during the ride, you can ask me on the follow-on questions. I'll tell you about how my airplane came about. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this. Okay, Sarah, next slide, please. And let's start with Boeing. Okay, and remember, you're all going to have these slides so you can see it and read it. And plus, I want to point out to you that we have a set of references in the back of the document that share with you more information about each of these slides, but also how to do it, how you can do it with your team, whether it's a Boeing or a Ford, or whether it's a smaller team, or whether it's your life or your family, or it's yourself. You use the same working together leadership and management system. So it was a handwritten note between United and Boeing. In order to launch a truly great airplane, we had the responsibility to work together. And that's where the work together with a quote came up. That exceeds the produce and introduce an airplane, that exceeds the expectations of the flight crews, the cabin crews, the maintenance support teams, and the passengers and shippers. And these three things are at the highest level of accomplishment on the 777. Best dispatch reliability in the industry. It means every day within 10 minutes, it's ready to go. Greatest customer appeal in the industry, user-friendly, and everything works, which enables the airplane to fly nonstop around the world on schedule, safely and efficiently. And the three people that just signed it, and I was working for Phil Condit at the time as the leader of the 777. Okay, now next slide, please. Here's the 777, you guys. And this is the rollout. And there are 110,000 people on the bottom there, all coming in to get a chance to see the airplane. And if you look closely, you can see them holding up their children so they can touch the airplane.
Can you see me there? Can you see
And
me?
they can show exactly what they were working on. You also can see on the side of the airplane up by the cockpit, some red writing. You look up on the top of the slide, you can see working together in red. Now, I want to tell you about how big a deal that is to have working together on the airplane before first flight. Next slide, please, Sarah. Okay, now here are the pilots, and this is a phenomenal thing, because you look above them and you can see that John and Kenny would normally expect, because we always do this, to have their names underneath the cockpit. Because when you do a first flight on the airplane, this is the first time that you know it works. You've tested it, you've verified it, you've validated it, but you only know it works when it works. And so on a first flight in all avionics in aerospace, you usually have just the pilots. And so we always write their names below the cockpit so everybody can know them, that's them, and how much we love them for supporting the creation of this airplane. So they came to see me the day before the first flight, and their names were on it. They said, "Okay, Alan, we would like to recommend to you that you replace our names with working together." I said, "Whoa, why? This is all about you." I said, "Well, we appreciate that, but we have never had a chance to serve on creating a new airplane like we have with you and working together. And so the reason this is going to be the most successful airplane in the world is because of working together leadership and management system. So we like to put that on and celebrate and love up all of the participants around the world that contribute to this." So we talked to everybody. They all agreed. The first flight the next day took off with working together. And usually our first flight's like an hour and a half or so, and it lasted nearly 5 hours because the airplane was working so well in the first flight that they went ahead and started the whole validation flight test program. So you can see the power and the love of working together. And next slide, please. Okay, and let's now turn to Ford. So here's a picture of Bill Ford, and it's really interesting because when Bill was recruiting me, he said, Alan, if you need to be the chairman and the CEO, I will give up being the chairman also. And I said, Bill, I'll only come if I were to come. I'd only come if you stay as the chairman. You're the titular head of the Ford family. You care, you know all about it, and that our work together is going to be so significant that we need both of us working together. And he told me later it's one of the neatest things that he had ever been through. And our relationship, saving Ford and then creating #1 brand in the United States, the fastest growing around the world with the best set of vehicles, was absolutely because of this working together relationship with Bill. And next slide, please. And so for all of the audience, you can see the detail and you can read this, but this is the compelling vision that we talked about of Ford. And this is Henry Ford, 1925, opening the highways to all mankind. Now think about that purpose, that vision, how important that is for so many people who were never going more than 10 miles away from their home. And at that time, he had 50% market share around the world, and he wanted to take this to a whole nother level. And then next slide, please, Sarah. And you all can see this when you're looking at the slides and you can read about it. I'm actually sharing with you the strategy and the plan to accomplish that compelling vision. And on the left-hand side, you can see the one team, one plan, one goal. There's the strategy and the plan. And on the backside, and everybody had this card that they carried around with them. And on this back half, you can see all the expected behaviors, because as we know, those are the most important thing next to the operating process on how we're going to work together. And of course, I did this with them, sharing everything I'd learned at Boeing, but I wanted their help. And look, they organized the expected behaviors by Ford, F-O-R-D,
Nice.
which I thought was fabulous. But everything about working together is there. Then you can see the rest of the strategy across the bottom serve all the markets around the world, complete family of vehicles, small, medium, large, cars, utilities, and trucks with the very best qualities, green, safe, smart value in the world. Use our One Ford working together plan, and then create the profitable growth for all, which is value for all the stakeholders in the greater good. Okay, next slide, please, Sarah.
So this ties into the next question, which is the working together leadership and management system that you just mentioned. And I'd love for you to go deeper into it. This looks like a great way to do it.
Well, absolutely. And it looks pretty sophisticated, but it's really straightforward, and it's really simple, and it's really understandable. So there are 5 elements of the system, and a system includes elements that you're implementing simultaneously. This is what you do in design or creation of anything. So we covered the principles and practices on the top,
Yes.
the connected culture of love by design, the operating process, expected behaviors, and creating value for all. And then the governance process is how we manage the organization, which includes all of the stakeholders, the board of directors. Most important thing for board of directors is selecting the CEO and the leadership team and holding them accountable for creating a profitably growing company that serves all the greater good. The leadership team, the creating value roadmap, the business plan review, and then the special attention meetings, which we go over with the board of directors regularly. And then you go down to the leadership team on the right, and you can see the key elements of it. It's really important to have project, program, and business leadership management expertise. This depends on what business you're in, including all the stakeholders. Of course, we've moved from command and control to coaching and facilitating, because that's the most important thing, because all the people that are working there are the smartest people in the world in each of their different functions. And also they're working together behaviors. And so cohesive, diversity, inclusion, humility, love, and service. We talked about courage, discipline, resilience, civility, authenticity, which we're going to talk about, integrity, positive mindsets, and psychologically safe. So creating this culture and nurturing this culture, most important contribution of the leader and the leadership team. Now, the biggest responsibility is, and accountability, is communicating everything about this working together management system, and then nurturing this working together management, nurturing this leadership management system, but also with zero tolerance for violating either the operating process or the expected behaviors. And if you choose to and not move in this positive direction that we've asked, then we talk to you and we work that out and either get you a coach or help you, or you can also decide if it doesn't work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, and I've had this happen to me with some senior people, not very many, 2 or 3, they say, well, Alan, I don't know whether I can move in this direction with these skills and these behaviors. And because I grew up the way I did, I'm command and control, I've been promoted, and I don't know whether I can change. And I would say, I understand, and it's okay. And they would look at me and they'd smile and they'd say, oh, it's okay? Meaning I'm so important that I don't have to move in this direction of loving people up and working together and nurturing this culture and respecting them and listening to them and care about them? And I'd say, no, that's not quite what I mean by okay. I mean by okay is thank you so much for sharing what works for you and what doesn't. And what you're really deciding is to move on because this doesn't work for you. And it's okay. And we still love you. Our first principle is love them up. You're a human being. So we love you. And so, but what I want you to do is I want you to go home tonight. I want you to talk to the people you love and love you. Tell them about our conversation. Ask them what they think. Analyze it. Think about it. Then I want you to come back in the morning and tell me what you decided. Are you going to stay and we'll get you coaching, we'll get you whatever you need, or it just doesn't work for you and you're going to move on? And it's okay. And I'll try to help you on that, in a position that's you're not influencing so many people in this way, or you can go ahead and move on. And so this is the most important responsibility. And you can imagine that when you start working together like this and you're having such success, that we had very few people where this working together not only didn't work for them, but they loved it. And then, of course, we use stakeholder-centered leadership because we're including all of the stakeholders inside and outside the company all around the world. And then, of course, we use stakeholder-centered coaching. And I hear, Kathy, you are a stakeholder-centered coach like Sarah and Alan are. Well, congratulations, because Marshall Goldsmith and Frank changed the world. And so all of our team go through stakeholder-centered coaching, and we use it for everybody. And every year, including me, I have my 2 or 3 things that we have gathered from everybody that they think that a little bit of improvement on that, and will take my leadership to a whole another level of performance. So it's down to, at the most fundamental level, lifelong learning and continuous improvement. Then you look over on the left-hand side, the creating value roadmap, and the references that you have that everybody has here, Moshe will share with them how to do that, because you go out 5 years. If you discount that back, that's 80% of the value. And of course, the goal is every year, be successful on your performance on the first one, and then put another bar up that increases that by 7 to 10% a year. So you're profitably growing. And if you're profitably growing, that means all of the participants, all of the stakeholders are profitably growing too. If you're not profitably growing, like a lot of companies, then you can't have a positive environment that's creating value for the greater good, because everybody can't benefit. So you have all those performance values for all of the stakeholders that we described about. And just to give you an idea, on the Ford case, on some of them, like with the investors, our intraday low was $1.01. And when I left, it was $18.37. That means that the profitability and the value of your stock and the company went up 1,837%. You wonder why I'm getting so many notes. You add to that our growth as a company went up. Our market share was increasing. We became the #1 brand in the United States again, the fastest growing brand around the world. We repaid our $23.5 billion home improvement loan that we took to pay for it. The finance that we didn't take government money when GM and Chrysler went into bankruptcy. And probably one of the neatest things, I think, is that the average employee survey percent positive is around 30 to 40% worldwide in all companies. And it was the same thing at Ford. It was at different times at Boeing because of what was going on in the world and stuff. And when it was around 34, 35% when I arrived. And when I left 8 years later, that positive employee survey was 95%, the highest in the world of any corporation, because people loved what we're doing. They loved the culture. They loved the way they grew, and they were growing every year, and how they also became very authentic leaders, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then move up to the weekly business plan review we talked about. Every week, we linked in with everybody around the world. We went through, led by every one of the leaders on the leadership team. We went through the business environment, so we knew what was going on. We were never surprised at what was going on around the world. We went through our vision, strategy, and plan, our status and our forecast we talked about, the areas need special attention. And then also, it was very easy to update the plan right down below at the end of the year, because we were working on all of the opportunities for increasing it, plus all the things we were doing to mitigate the risk. And so we all knew everything was going on, and so we could continue to profitably grow the company over the long term. Now, that's the leadership and management system, and I would welcome your last question.
Sure. It's something that tied into what you just described, and you mentioned a couple of times the idea of one life. And it's not, I go here to work and then I come home and I'm a separate person, I'm a different person. It's all one. Can you speak to that work-life balance notion that you're known for?
Absolutely. And next slide, please, Sarah. The one thing about that work-life balance, Moshe, is that I heard that very young, probably close to when I was born again. And I kept asking my mom and dad, don't we have just one life? What do you mean I have two different lives? A work life and a personal life, and there's a work-life balance or somehow? And so they explained to me that the work that people have usually is a really big deal, has a lot of issues associated with it. So sometimes it'll get in the way of having an integrated life, which is your life's work. So this authenticity that I shared with you on the behaviors is so interesting, because one, it's so important, but two, it's probably one of the clearest definitions in a dictionary of all words there, because it's an alignment between your beliefs, your values, and your behaviors, which is back to Francis Hasselbein's, you are aligned on who you are and what you do and how you do it. Wow. How many people get to experience a life like that? They usually have different lives for their work. They have a different life when they're at home with their family, a different life that's lined up with their spiritual thoughts, with their community. And so you can imagine, if you get to the place where your beliefs, your values, and your behaviors are aligned, then now you have one life that you're living with all the different aspects of your life. And the stress then goes dramatically away. And now you have lifelong learning and continuous improvement, being this authentic person. So next slide, please, Sarah. Just one little bit more information about that. Okay, so what does that result in? The working together results in having one life, which is your life's work of service, which is our love made visible to all. And so why is that? Well, now think about this now. And you can make this drawing up and for yourself, and you can have as many different aspects of your life you want to have in here. But clearly your occupational life, your family life, you notice I changed that from work life, because to serve is to live, and work is your service. So your occupational life, your family life, spiritual life, community life, personal life. So you have all of these different elements of your life. And now you are leading now with humility, love, and service, and you have one life, and just your life works of service. And so what happens on the authenticity is that when you become one like this, then you become one in your life. And this is the number one feedback, Moshe, that I get from all those letters. They love what they've gained, what they've done, the benefits, but they all kept moving in this way, moving from I to we and me to service. And serving was humility and love. And also, if you look over on the right-hand side, and there's some references that show you how to do this too, what we have covered today is our love made visible with working together in the business plan review, which is the element where we do that working together, where everybody's there and we're working together really tightly. And then you can also do this with a family plan review. And Nikki and I, with our 5 children, have done this every Sunday morning for our 53 years. Well, that started with the 2 of us, and then we included all of the kids. And as soon as they were in kindergarten, they were doing the business plan review with us. But I tried business plan review on Nikki when we started having the kids, because we needed to review the status and level them up and stuff. And she said, "Honey, this is not Boeing. It's not work. It's not. This is our family." So I waited for a week, and I came back and said, "Okay, honey, how about we call it family plan review?" She said, okay. And if you'd like to know some more about that in your follow-on questions, I'll be glad to share that with you. A lot of people say when they hear this whole story about working together, one of the things that they love the most that they learned is they can have their version of a working together leadership and management system of Love by Design, starting with their family. So they go home immediately after we have this conversation, and they start their business plan review. I mean, their family plan review. So, and also, Sarah and I worked with Marshall Goldsmith, and Kathy knows this, I'm sure, that he wanted a version of the working together plan to help people individually further develop their life. And so he started this, and he included a set of people, of stakeholders that would be on his life plan review, and he would actually follow this same process, where he's going, get their opinions and thoughts. And Kathy, the stories he tells about that, about what they learned from each other and how they helped from each other, it took stakeholder center coaching to a whole nother personal level. And he is and Sarah and I've helped him with that, and everything you see about what he has done and what he's doing and what he's written, additionally he's written, is all result of his discipline on his working together life plan review. Okay, Sarah, one more. And Moshe and Kathy, I included this one chart that is a suggestion that Sarah and I use this with all the people that want to learn about working together. And I did this for myself, and Sarah's done it, is this thing about your life and having one life, which is your life's work of services, is answering these 4 questions. Who are you? And why are you who you are? And what do you do? And how do you do it? That all leads you to having one life, which is your life's work of service, which is based on lifelong learning and continuous improvement. The reason this lifelong learning and continuous improvement is so big is that the data says that most people, by the time they're 35 or 40, they move away from continuous lifelong learning. And so we haven't stopped, and neither of you guys. And so we're learning all the time, and we love it. And so what you do, and I just use me as example, just jot down all the things that you think describe the who, why, what, and how. Now, my only other recommendation to you, like Sarah and Francis and Marshall do, is check with all your friends and all your stakeholders and see what they say about what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because right there, you're going to get a lot of great input that allow you to really get started on your continuous improvement and your lifelong learning. Okay, now the last thing, Moshe, that I want to share with you is, next slide, please, Sarah. Here's the first slide of all the stakeholders. And Sarah and I have done this, and Sarah has done this fantastically, because we've arranged this so everything where we see a blue, you actually get access to that reference. And so there are 3 pages of them. And you can see at the top, work is life made visible. The Alan Mullally's engine is phenomenal. Sarah and I wrote an article for the Journal, the conversation with Alan, which explains all of this. The extraordinary power of leader humility. Oh my gosh, that's Marilyn Gist. I helped her write that book. She's phenomenal, which takes the whole humility to a whole nother level of understanding. And then Engineer of the Year is fun because it shares everything about the 777 plus million, and on and on and on. And also the American icon in the fight to save the Ford Motor Company, which is Bryce Hoffman, which, if you want to know everything about the transformation at Ford, that's great. Well, anyway, you can see the quality of them written by tremendous people. And so you and everybody that's participating will have access to these too. So what do you think?
That's a lot. That's really powerful stuff, Alan. And
one more thing.
yes.
This is a little extra information for everybody about these dynamite people they're seeing on this. And you can see Moshe, you can see Kathy, you can see Sarah, and you've already met me, but this is all the rest of their resume. And again, I can't think of 4 people that are more aligned on how to be and how to do, as Francis taught us, and to create value for the greater good by serving and nurturing this culture of love by design to create value for all the stakeholders and the greater good. And you know now, with everything that's going on in the world, and all the conversations about shareholder focus and stakeholder focus, and how powerful this is. Because if you're growing and you're including all the stakeholders, then everybody is going to be appreciating it and benefiting from the value you're creating.
Wow. Well, thank you, Alan. Number one, and the biggest thing I wanted to say is thank you for being you, and for infusing who you are into all your work, and that you start with being, and that affects the doing and all the value that creates. So the working together, the principles, the practices, the connected culture of love by design, the leadership and management system, the work-life balance, all of that comes together so beautifully. And you've demonstrated what a difference it can make.
Okay, now, Moshe, I want to show you something.
Yeah.
Look at this. I'll go slowly.
Oh, yeah. The Amare Way manifesto.
Okay, now, at the top of that, it has our working together, authentic, integrated, one life, and life's work of service is our love made visible. And then handwritten below that, I wrote, our working together, leadership and management system, and connected and collaborative culture of love by design to create value for all the stakeholders and greater good is our implementation of the Amare Way. There it is. That's what we've implemented.
Yep.
I can't wait to hear the questions that you ask, Moshe, and integrating and revealing the specific ways that, Alan, your work and Sarah, it aligns so beautifully with Moshe's Amare Way. So I'm excited. I'm also grateful that you're willing to say, yes, let's do a follow on to make sure that that happens, because I didn't want to shorten anything you were saying, Alan. And so, Moshe, thank you for creating that opening, and Alan for saying yes to that.
Absolutely. I'll be glad to, because we always learn a lot in our teaching and our coaching from all the questions being asked. The ones that I've learned from you, I think are great already. And I think you can see now how we are one. And
Yes.
I can share with you the detail, like you said, like, it's like, what happens in the business plan review? How does that get everybody working together? And how do they respect each other and listen to each other and help each other? And it's only going to happen if they love each other. And then remember, look what happens to them as a human being after they're feeling this success and they're appreciated, they're loved up. And now that is being shared with all of the other aspects of their life. So now they're teaching people first, love them up the Amare Way.
That's
And
what we're
from
growing.
the editor-in-chief of Leader to Leader, I'm seeing this article about the Amare Wave, and then how working together is an example of the Amare Wave. So you, Moshe, making that connection
Yep.
between the Amare Wave and what we just heard is really going to be a powerful, powerful article. That's the key to this article, is the connection
Yes.
about what the Amare Wave is and how working together in Alan Mulally's leadership of it is an example of what
Exactly.
you teach.
Yes.
And think about what Sarah just said. And you have all those fabulous principles and practices. You saw them down the side. They're all there.
Yeah.
And you think about our principles and practices, which was the same thing. And what's the very first one? The Amare Way.
Yeah.
People first, love them up.
Beautiful.
That's the
Because
essence.
they're human beings.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, everybody. This was delightful. Look forward to part 2.
Part two.
Onward and upward.
Very good.
Thank you so much. Have a
Okay,
wonderful
take care.
day.
Thanks a lot.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.